Hey guys, welcome to another video, and yeah, let's get right into it. So now the last video we covered the Rowan. We covered the first book in the Tower and the Hive series. Today we are going to cover, or well, tonight actually, although I suppose it's quarter to 12 now, so I guess it's close to midnight. But yeah, anywho, let's get started. So the second installment of the Tower and the Hive follows primarily the youngest daughter of Angharad Gwyn, the Rowan, and her husband. And initially, the plot, the story is told mostly from Afra Lyon's perspective, the friend and assistant to the Rowan and Jeff Raven, the guy that she married. He kind of watches the Rowan start a family and becomes particularly fond of the youngest of the three, the titular character of Damia. And the first half of the book is there's a little bit of Afra's past, so we kind of get to see a little bit of his past on the Methody planet of Capella, and we see how he came to work for the Rowan, and we get his observations of events from the previous book. So we are basically getting the story of the Rowan through his eyes. So we get to watch him and experience watching the Rowan's kids growing up and become primes to their own towers. The other half, and that was kind of the first half of the book, the other half focuses largely on Damia and how she became a prime of her own tower on Origai, or I'm just gonna pronounce it Origai because that's like the easiest pronunciation for me. So yeah, pros and cons. I should warn you, there are probably going to be spoilers ahead because, let's face it, in this case I really can't not spoil it. I'm going to try and keep spoilers to a minimum though. Once again, we'll start with positives and then work our way through to the negative aspects of the book. I liked the format. I liked being able to see a little bit of Afra's past, because that develops his character from the sort of quiet character that he was in the Rowan to kind of like a main character where his relationship with Damia is the primary focus of the novel. And towards the end of the book, it does become romantic. They do like eventually end up together. Now that said, the romantic element of their relationship is largely downplayed for the first bit of that part of the novel. Really only comes into focus towards the end of the book when the two fight off a deadly alien threat, something far more dangerous than what her mother encountered at the end of the first book. And I mean, there's like, I think a 30 or 40 year age gap between the two characters. But it's well written. It's tastefully done. It's very well written. There's nothing really. It doesn't come across as creepy. In spite of the 30 or 40 year age gap, would typically be a very creepy thing to read, at least to me. But the way it's written in Damia, McCaffrey just makes it seem it's very natural the way it's written. And since the relationship between these two characters is kind of the primary focus of the novel, you want them to be happy. They essentially go through hell together a couple of times in the book. And so you want them to come out on top. You want them to get the happiness that they deserve. As a character, Damia is well written. I mean, she starts off as a very naive character, but she does mature. She does become a very well-rounded individual. She is a character in her own right. She's got her own strengths and weaknesses. She's unique from everybody else. I mean, there are moments where you want to like reach into the pages and strangle her, but those moments are few and far between, thankfully enough. Once again, the supporting cast is well rounded, and again, everybody plays a part in the story. Much like the last book, McCaffrey's writing style is easy to follow and get into. The romantic elements of Afra and Damia's relationship is, as I've already said, it's tastefully and tactfully done, so it doesn't come across as creepy or uncomfortable in any way. The structure of the book, the book itself is a bit longer than its predecessor, but the structure is pretty easy. It's very easy to read, and McCaffrey's writing style, it's a breeze. I will say that the tone, particularly towards the end of the book, it does have its dark moments. And its predecessor had dark moments as well, but Damia in particular has some very rough, dark patches. So yeah. Now, much like with the Rowan, the only real huge problem that I had with Damia was that the cast of characters was again huge. There were a lot of different characters to keep track of, and again, some of these characters end up blurring into each other. So, you're not quite sure who's who or who's doing what at what time. One other, albeit smaller, gripe that I have is that the book does feel slightly heavier. I mean, don't get me wrong, the writing style and the structure make the book very easy to read, but it does feel like it's a bit heavier than the previous book in the series. Then again, as I've already said, this book does have moments where it is significantly darker than its predecessor, so I can, at the very least, forgive it for this for feeling slightly heavier than its predecessor. And again, like the previous book, I think Damia is well worth a read if you haven't read it already, and I'd highly recommend it. As I've already said a couple of times, it is slightly heavier than its predecessor, but it's still an easy enough book to read. I've read it probably 4 or 5 times, probably more than that. In fact, I often will start with the Rowan, and as soon as I finish with the Rowan, I, continue. I will shoot over immediately into Damia, and then into the next book in the series, and from there into the next book and the next book until I finish the series. So, yeah, if you guys haven't read it, it's definitely worth checking out. So, yeah, it's worth looking at. Give it a shot if you like. If it's not really your thing, well, at least you tried it. So, yeah, that was Damia. And this video is, about half the length of the previous one. So, yeah, Damia, I can't really say much. I tried not to spoil the plot, but as I've read it a couple of times. I'm gonna keep reading it. It's a fantastic read. So yeah, I'm just gonna repeat what I said a couple of times already. Read it if you get the chance, or at the very least, give it a try and see what happens. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, well, at least you've tried it. So, and the same goes for the Rowan. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It's that simple. So yeah, that was Damia. The second book in the Tower and the Hive series is as good, if not better, than its predecessor, which actually, honestly enough, that actually floored me. I typically, the first book is typically the best one in the series. The second book is okay. The third book is meh. And as the sequels in a series get more and more, as you get more and more sequels in a series, they get progressively worse. But Damia was just as good, if not better, than the Rowan, and hopefully Damia's children will be will sort of continue the trend. So, thanks for watching this review of Damia. The next up is the third book in the Tower and the Hive series, Damia's Children. Really looking forward to that. I'll probably have to reread Damia's Children. Thankfully, I can breeze through this whole series in basically a day or two. A week or so at the most. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll see you next time. Adios.